All right, folks, take out those crystal balls because today we're talking about the future of North Idaho. All right, let's jump in. Hey guys, our team of former first responders, we literally get calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like you trying to learn more about North Idaho. So hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell. That way you'll stay up to date on all of our latest content. And remember, you're looking to move right now or 12 months from now, give us a call, text, or email. We would love to help you make that smooth move right here to North Idaho. All right, first up on today's topic of the future of North Idaho, we're going to talk about population growth. So North Idaho has been exploding in population. That is a true thing. And if you ask someone that grew up here, they probably hate it, but they'll definitely tell you that this town is much different than it was 20, 30 years ago. There is growth, and that brings a lot of challenges and some good things as well. But let's look at some numbers. So 2012 to 2022, Idaho, this is Idaho in total, grew by 343,000 people. That's like, it sounds like a lot, I guess, but Los Angeles probably grows by that like every day. So when you look at a state like Idaho as a whole over 10 years, yes, that's a lot of people, but not really. The population's sitting around 2 million right now. So still, that's not a huge population for a decently sized state. So there's still a lot of available land out here. It doesn't feel super crowded. Certain areas may have pockets of congestion that you'll notice occasionally, but overall, it's not that bad. Now, I understand if you grew up here, like I said earlier, you may not like it. You'll notice that too. Idaho Department of Labor predicts 1.1% growth per year with a growth of 228,000 by 2031. So that's the prediction. I have no idea how they come up with that number. It might be just a big old guess. I'm not sure. But, I would suspect a big chunk of those people are going to be going down south to Boise and eastern Idaho, down in that area. There's a lot of room for growth down there. Boise's a big city, lots of jobs, and that Meridian area has just exploded with people. Gosh, I looked down there 3 or 4 years ago and it was pretty busy at that point. I can't imagine what it's like now. So thankful I live in North Idaho. I think it's a little bit of a slower paced lifestyle up here and certainly prettier than Boise area. But that's a video for another day. All right, let's jump into the next topic. All right, next topic. So economic diversification. This region has been working on diversifying its economy from the traditional industries like timber and mining. That's very traditional. And that supplied this part of the state for a long time and kind of kept the populations going, provided jobs. There is a push to diversify those jobs even more and get into the technology and remote work world. Obviously, with COVID, we had a lot of people move up here because they were able to work remotely, and a lot of them are still able to work remotely, so they stay up here, and that works out well for their families. That's becoming more of a common thing. So I think we can see more population migrating this way to do those things. Shockingly, the tech industry here, in especially Coeur d'Alene, has grown quite a bit. If you go downtown, say go to Coeur d'Alene Coffee and go to the Den down there, there's some bigger tech companies in there. I know there's a company that's making electric powered surf boats. That's cool. And there's some other stuff in there too, some bigger tech companies that you would be surprised to find in a town like this, but they're out there. You just got to know where to go looking for them. Also manufacturing jobs. Post Falls has a lot of manufacturing. There's some at Sandpoint as well. And there's some big warehouses going in over in Post Falls. It looks like maybe an Amazon distribution center. I could be wrong on that, but it's a big warehouse or a bunch of them. And with that comes more jobs. So I think that push to diversify jobs is a good thing for this region and will help make a stronger and more stable economy for the future. All right, next up, tourism and outdoor recreation. It is no secret, North Idaho is like the most beautiful place on earth. I mean, mountains, trees, lakes, rivers, we've got it all, and they are pretty sweet. So this tourism and outdoor recreation here, it's a growing industry. It's done a lot to put Coeur d'Alene on the map. Some might say unfortunately, because the secret is out. And I would say that tourism industry is likely to continue growing. There's a lot of development going on up in Sandpoint around Schweitzer Mountain. They're putting in tons of new condos and homes up around the mountain because it is a world-class ski resort. It's beautiful up there. So that's a big benefit. And of course, with all of these lakes and rivers, you've got fishing, hunting, all of the boating stuff that you could ever want, including paddleboarding. All that's here. So that brings tourists. And then the Coeur d'Alene Resort does a great job downtown. That place is awesome. They do tons of great events. They take care of the town quite a bit. So downtown Coeur d'Alene is always beautiful, pressure washed, the streets, garbage gets picked up. So it's in great shape. And a lot of that, you have to thank the tourism industry for a lot of that, right? It brings a lot of money to the town to have these people come and stay here. Obviously, some of the locals don't always love that because things can get fairly busy in the summertime, but that's just what we have to come to expect. This just came out. The Coeur d'Alene Resort is expanding. They are adding a second tower across Sherman Avenue from the current location. I just saw the plans for this. I don't love it. I live downtown. We're actually moving out of downtown, partly because of some of the growth going on. But will it be good for the town? I don't know. There's certainly hard to say no to their tower because there's another condo going up right now that's going to be 16 stories tall or whatever it is. And that's what the resort tower will be as well. So I think the downtown landscape of Coeur d'Alene will change drastically in the next 5 to 10 years. And we'll see a lot more of that vertical growth. And, all of the horizontal space is taken up for the most part. So that's the only direction they can go. Additionally, with that, I'm sure we'll see some additional marinas get put in because the marina space is pretty much completely taken up. The wait list for the resort, the Hagedon Marinas, is 1,500 people, as far as I know. It's huge. I mean, if you're that number, 1,500, good luck. You'll get a boat slip in about 100 years. So there is definitely a need for that. And Hagedon Marina did a pretty good job. They added in this quick launch in Blackwell area, Blackwell Island, Blackwell Marina. And they have these giant forklifts and they stack the boats vertically. I went in there the other day and it's massive. And these giant forklifts will go and pick the boats out and put it in the water for you when you're ready to come use your boat. So there's an app you use when you want to pick your launch time. I know a few people have boats in there and they said it works out pretty well. So that could be a good option for you. Maybe we'll see more of those because it kind of makes it more efficient way to put boats rather than having them in their own slip in the water. So that's some of the future stuff we're seeing kind of with the resort and the marina world. All right, what's next? All right, next up, infrastructure development. This is a touchy subject for many here because it always seems like there's road work going on here in Idaho, especially North Idaho. You have the maintenance from wintertime, which trashes the roads. And then, of course, we have a lot of expansion going on. There's some major corridors getting added because influx of traffic means people are sitting longer. If you have a crash, it shuts down the roadways quite a bit and becomes kind of problematic. When we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about schools, healthcare facilities, things like that. Like all of the public services, law enforcement, fire department, all of this needs to expand to keep up. And it is expanding. Some of the projects we're seeing right now, Highway 90, which is the east-west corridor running from Washington across the Panhandle to Montana, we're seeing a widening of that it will be soon from the Washington-Idaho border to Coeur d'Alene. That's going on right now. They're dealing with the large intersection at Highway 41 and 90 currently, and it's a hot mess in there right now. They're tearing out bridges and doing all sorts of other crap and looks complicated, but I think the end result will be much smoother traffic coming from that section, which does traditionally get some congestion. That Coeur d'Alene to Washington section there can get pretty backed up, especially if there's a crash. ISPs out there doing their thing, working their butts off, trying to clear that crash, but still 2 lanes is difficult. 3 lanes is always better. But this is one of those things that people who grew up here, you don't want to see your small town kind of become a big city, but it's happening. You can get mad about it, or you can just deal with it and find the good aspects of it, like lots of new restaurants. Highway 95, which runs north-south in the state, cuts right through Coeur d'Alene, and it's super inconvenient the way it cuts through. There's a little bridge, and then you in town, it's super slow. So if you're a big rigger cruising north-south, now you have to cut through all of this nonsense, and it's not a very efficient way to do it. It creates traffic problems. So there was talk of a Hutter bypass that would help bypass that main little drag that cuts through there. And that could be good. I don't know. A lot of people are fighting it because I think it will impact outlying areas from Coeur d'Alene as well. And then the core terror development. This is a hot topic here lately. It was just approved. Good or bad, I don't know. I'll withhold judgment on that. But this is a 2,800 home development kind of in between Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls. So it will bridge that gap there and pretty much connect both cities. So the developer swears, they pinky swear, that there's going to be lots of green space, bike trails. They will have to build some schools, 2 schools, I believe. And then they said 18 acres for parks. I hope it's more than that. And then here's the fun one. 5% of the homes for workforce housing. I don't know what that means. It means they're supposed to be more affordable for working class families to be able to actually afford to live in them. The last time a big development came in like this, it was Coeur d'Alene Place, and I'm sure people got up in arms about it, but it turned out to be one of the better, at least family-friendly neighborhoods in Coeur d'Alene, so not necessarily a bad thing. If growth is going to happen, it's better that it happens in a way that is well thought out. If you drive through Coeur d'Alene Place, there's plenty of bike trails where the kids can ride. There's multiple parks. There's schools that are walkable. So it is a well thought out neighborhood. And like I said, if it's going to happen, hopefully it happens in a reasonable way that looks good and is functional and does preserve some of the natural beauty of it. I'll leave it at that. All right, well, we can't talk about growth without talking about environmental conservation. Likely, there will be a much continued focus on protecting North Idaho's pristine environment and natural resources, of which are abundant up here. Conservation efforts, land use planning, sustainable practice, that's all important considerations. And just like that Core Terre neighborhood I talked about, if done right, they can bring in enough green space where things still look good and are functional and work out well for families. A couple of things to point out here. So I've talked about this in previous videos. The Silver Valley, all the way up to Coeur d'Alene and parts of Lake Coeur d'Alene and the Coeur d'Alene River are a Superfund site, not Superfund, Superfund. And that means major environmental damage, catastrophe in the past, and that is from mining. I think the practices have changed and now it's not as much of an issue, but all of that pollution is still there. And that's in the form of heavy metals and things like that in the rivers and in the sediment in the Coeur d'Alene Lake. So there's been a ton of work to mitigate some of that. You know, I know a lot of the ground soil, surface soil was scraped out of parts of the Silver Valley and removed and then replaced because it had high levels of lead in it. Kids were testing high for lead. And this is over, you know, Kellogg, Wallace, that area where the mining is very heavy. So something to definitely think about. You know, I don't find myself being super concerned about it where I live, but, you know, I don't drink the lake water and I don't eat fish out of there. So that might be something to keep in mind. So the pollution's there. That is something that will continue to be dealt with for probably decades and hopefully does not get added to from current mining practices and things like that. Additionally, so when we talk about environmental conservation, and this came up recently, we had Kootenai County Commissioner Bruce Matari on, who's a very smart man. Appreciate that he's in public service. And there was talk of using bonds to buy up large chunks of land in the prairie, which would be that area north of Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene, Rathdrum, in that area, and make it so that it can never be developed, nothing can ever be done with it. It just becomes public land. This opens up several things. One, I don't generally like additional taxes. I feel like the government is extremely inefficient, and I know that because I worked for them for a long time. But I looked this one over, and after talking to Bruce about it, it makes a lot of sense to me. The cost per household would be like $20-something, and it would secure a $50 million bond to buy up as many chunks of land as possible. I'm all for it because buying up that land, it can never turn into more of these mega developments, and it will help preserve some of that natural beauty that North Idaho has. The prairie is beautiful, but it is also prime development land because it's easy to develop. So if we can buy up chunks of that in the future, I think it would be a great thing. Hopefully the public will start to see that, and then this will get voted in at some point. I'm sure someone out there is going to call me something because I said that, but look it through. It's actually not a bad idea. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of additional taxes, but I am a big fan of smart moves with the money and finding ways to preserve what North Idaho is, and that might be a good option. All right, who wants to talk about politics? Actually, I generally don't because it creates a lot of anger no matter who you're talking to. However, we have to talk about politics here in North Idaho because it is predominantly conservative, and it's good and bad. I think it's mostly good for me because I lean that way as well. Those that are not conservative leaning might be intimidated to come up here, and those that are very conservative don't want the politics to change in this area, because this is the way it is because of the politics generally. Like I said, it's a touchy subject. North Idaho might continue to experience political and cultural dynamics. You know, we see that fight. It's going on in the country right now. Are we going to see that up here? I think, you know, a lot of people will say that Boise is turning into a purple area. I believe, I'm no color master, but I think that's when you blend red and blue together, it becomes purple. So the concern is that it will start to lean more liberal and then potentially decline like many of the other liberal leaning large population metropolises, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA. Weird. Funny how that works out. So that's the risk, I guess, is that, you know, will we see North or Idaho in general start to slide into a different political base? My personal feelings, I have no statistics to back this up. Well, maybe I do. I don't think that's happening in North Idaho. North Idaho is extremely conservative, and this comes up a lot. I get horrible comments on YouTube a lot. Some, you may see them, I don't know. Drop me a nice comment, by the way. I need to hear some good stuff sometimes. I get a lot of people that say that they're angry because of Californians moving here. Californians are ruining North Idaho. Washingtonians are ruining North Idaho. People from Oregon are ruining North Idaho. I don't think that's true. My personal experience, and we deal with a lot of clients coming from out of state. The ones that are moving here are running away from usually politics in another state that they don't agree with. Like they don't agree with it so much that they're willing to uproot their family and their entire lives and move to a different state that is safer and better for them. That's a big deal. You don't just take that lightly. So, you know, the people that I deal with, and maybe there's others out there, I don't know, I don't see them. They are coming here and they for damn sure don't want North Idaho to become San Francisco. So they're not going to come here and vote the way that San Francisco votes. That's just my personal experience. Most of our clients tend to be from law enforcement too, and they're certainly not going to, they've seen the effects of that, right? They've seen the effects of homelessness. They don't want that to happen here in North Idaho, so they're not going to vote that way. I found some statistics that 75% of the people coming from California are conservative or vote conservative. Now, Idaho in general is traditionally 58% conservative, so it's not 100% red by any means. So literally the people coming here from other states are making this place more red. And I say this all the time, but I cannot seem to get through to certain sections of the population that just want to get angry about it and not look at the facts that yes, this place is changing, but it's changing because the population is growing, and with increased population, other things tend to change, right? It might seem like there's more crime. That's not necessarily a function of the people that are moving here. That's a function of just having more people in general, and it brings other things with it. We also have to look at maybe some of these problems are coming from Washington, Spokane, which is really close by, and popping over the border here because they see a potentially target-rich environment for, you know, petty theft, little crimes like that. They're running a big risk, though. It is Idaho. So, boy, I just went on a tangent about that. I do get a little bit annoyed because I get lots of comments of how I'm personally destroying the state by bringing people from out of state here. However, like I said, the people that tend to call us and that I talk to and that are most of our clients are fantastic people that want to find a community that they can get involved in and coming here for the right reasons because they like the political climate. They want to raise their families or retire in a place that is safe and clean and, you know, older values. That's my experience. Well, since we're talking about really touchy subjects, let's jump on to climate change. What does the future of North Idaho climate look like? Personal experience is the best way to tackle this one. I don't really care what you think politically. I don't know. I don't know if the climate's changing because of us. I got no idea. I'm not a scientist, but I have noticed, and I've noticed in my lifetime, weather patterns changing. And I noticed that in Northern California as things started to get hotter and drier and fires kicked off constantly. Like I saw that. That was my personal observation. Being here in North Idaho, even the last 4 years, I have not seen a huge amount of snow. Is that a weather pattern changing? I don't know. But if you talk to somebody that grew up here, it sounds like there was a lot more snow 20 years ago. Maybe it's just like a short-term little pattern. I got no idea. But there is the possibility that weather patterns are changing up here and summers are getting hotter. I saw that in California, so maybe that's going on here as well. So we've got hotter, drier summers and then potentially less cold, maybe less moisture in the wintertime. And well, I don't certainly mind the nice warm summers, but I personally would rather have a little bit more snow up here. So that's something to think about. Are the weather patterns changing up here? It's possible. That is something that we might see in the next 10 to 20 years. We start to trend more towards warmer weather. And it'll be interesting to see the ramifications of that if it does occur. All right, education and healthcare. Two pretty popular topics. I think this region will continue to see improvements in the healthcare because that's just a function of population growth. And we tend to get a lot of retirees up here and they require medical resources beyond the normal scope of a younger person, for example. So that will be something we see. We also will see schools, the changing school environment. There's a big push, not just in Idaho, but everywhere to combat the old public school system and the way things were done, right? I don't want to raise my kids to be factory workers. I want them to be able to critically think, problem solve, important life skills beyond just being able to sit at a desk for 8 hours a day and have information thrown at them. So, and I'm not alone in that, right? That's why a lot of families homeschool. I think that's a very viable option. When I was a kid, it was like homeschool kids were weird, right? But now you meet a homeschool kid and they're like looking me in the eye, shaking my hand, talking to me like an adult. And I'm like, well, damn, somebody did something right there. Good job, mom and dad. So North Idaho is huge for homeschooling and there are tons of resources for that. So I suspect that in the future, we will see that only continue to grow. And we also have multiple private school options and charter school options. Charter schools are like private schools, but free. We've got Kootenai Classical Academy, which is a conservative private school, charter school. I'm not sure what that one is. Liberty Launch Academy, which is actually in Liberty Lake over in Washington, but a fantastic school. Coeur d'Alene Charter, which is renowned for its academics, and multiple religious-based schools and small private schools. So there are a ton of options up here, and I only see that growing in the future because I think a lot of the families that move here are kind of looking for that environment to raise their kids, right? They feel the same way that I do about education. That's my guess. Future there is a bright outlook for healthcare and schools here in North Idaho. All right, community development. So North Idaho has, like, I talk about this all the time, amazing community up here. Like, no matter what you want to get into, I'm not going to say underwater basket weaving, but it's here. There are options for everything up here and just wonderful people that like to get out and do these things. And you can tap into that and find that community no matter what it is. It's here. And there are lots of cool people that are doing it. So go find them and go join them. I would say that that community aspect will continue to shape some of the development here in this region. The more people that move here that kind of tie into these things, it's just going to continue that growth. So I think that will have a lasting impact on North Idaho. And I just love the fact that you can come here and tie into these different things. For me, it's like jujitsu, it's cold plunging, and I get to go out and I meet people, and you just pull that thread if you meet somebody and see where it goes. Maybe it goes nowhere, but maybe you have a new friend, and maybe that leads you to something else. And that's one of my favorite things to do here in North Idaho, and I find it to be much easier than anywhere else I've lived. And I've lived in 8 different states. So I've been all over the country, and I find that this place is something special here, but it is really unique in that regard. And I think incredibly wonderful. And I look forward to seeing where that goes in the future. All right, last, but certainly not least, let's talk about real estate here. The future of real estate in North Idaho. The secret is out. Everybody knows about this place, and a lot of people want to get here. They want to get here for a lot of the reasons I just said, and some of those are political, right? They're running from something that they perceive to be a threat to their family, and I don't mean like necessarily a physical threat, but a threat to their family's freedom or the way they want to raise their kids. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal to people. It makes them uproot everything and run here. That pressure, that buying pressure of people that want to move to this area, combined with relatively low inventory for houses, right? Builders are building constantly. We talked about some new developments coming up. That's happening, but it's not that fast, right? So that inventory cannot keep up with the buying pressure. So the more that some of these states out there make stupid laws and freak people out, the more those people are going to want to come here knowing that this is a wonderful place to live and grow your family. That pressure, low inventory, there's only one thing that can happen here too. Drive prices up. There's got to be a limit to that though, right? Or at least keep prices very stable, even if the rest of the country or most of it is experiencing declines in real estate. I'm not alone in this belief. I mean, it's pretty simple, supply and demand. If there is low supply and high demand, it will drive the prices up, right? it's really unfortunate for people starting out in life or people that have lived here a long time and their occupation doesn't have the wages that support the cost of living here. I understand that. I am not so hardened to that fact. That is another comment I get a lot, is that realtors suck and we're causing the problem. No, well, we're not causing the problem. The buying pressure is causing the problem. So that's just something to look at. It is a fact. And I think prices will continue to go up. Obviously, if the whole world falls apart, that changes things. But if things are fairly stable in the rest of the country, I predict that prices will continue to rise here, or at least remain stable and strong for a long time because of that. And it's a great place for tourism. So a lot of people come here on vacation and then fall in love with it and end up moving here. And that's always going to happen. So that's part of the reason why I think this place is so fantastic. All right. Thank you guys for joining me on this talk about the future of North Idaho. Obviously, some of this is my opinion, and I'm no expert. I am an expert in real estate, so we can talk about that, but I'm not an expert in a lot of other things. So if I said something mistakenly, I apologize. But I think these are things to think about. What's the future of North Idaho look like, especially if you're thinking about moving here and you're wondering, hey, is this going to be the same place in 5 years? I don't know. Things will change for sure, but things change everywhere, and that's just the reality of life. So I suspect this will remain a wonderful place to live for a long time. Even if things start to decline, it will take 20 years. By then, your family will be grown and hopefully happy and thriving in life, and then you can deal with it. But for now, for the time being, this is the place. That's why I choose to call it home. And remember, guys, if you're looking to move right now or 12 months from now, make this place your home as well, give us a call, text, or email. We would love to help you make that smooth move right here to North Idaho.